Okay, welcome everybody to our session. My name is Sabine Hölter-Koch, and I'm very happy to chair this session together with Péter Kéri.
My name is Péter. It is my pleasure to be a part of this intimate surrounding.
Yeah, and we decided to share our story with a couple of slides that we prepared. I have the pleasure to start, thank you. And then I will hand over to Péter, and then we will open up the discussion for everybody else to join us in the question what European research efforts can do for us in our daily work. So please don't be shy and get involved as soon as possible. Okay, what's my story? So I would like to thank the organizers to give me that opportunity to tell my story, because in contrast to Péter, I'm really at the other end of the spectrum. I'm a basic researcher, and I find it really interesting to bring both of us together here. So I'm a behavioral neuroscientist, and I'm happy to tell you how I see the benefit of European research efforts in my daily work today. So I've been working for 2 decades on an endeavor which is now called the International Mouse Phenotyping Consortium. And the goal of this International Mouse Phenotyping Consortium is to build together with a consortium of 20 research centers across the globe the first functional catalog of the mammalian genome. So we share the workload in these centers to generate a knockout mouse model of every gene in the mammalian genome for which the mouse has a comparable version to the human. And we produce these knockout mouse lines and comprehensively phenotype them basically from head to toe. So from behavior over clinical chemistry, metabolism to pathology. And we make all of this data freely available via this website, which is indicated here at the top, mousephenotype.org. And what is really crucial is on the right part. Now let me see if I can. Yes, I can use the pointer. There's a huge bioinformatics part involved in this, where all of the symptoms that we find out in the mice are classified, annotated using controlled vocabulary, the human phenotype ontology, which makes it possible to basically compare all of this information to data and information that is available. Oops, the host ended this meeting. What do I need to do here? Okay. Which makes it possible to compare all of this information with what is known about human diseases already, and really try to link all the data that were generated to human disorders. Because the whole goal of this endeavor is really to focus on what can we learn from the mouse, what can research on the mouse contribute to human diseases. And at the moment, this database already contains data of more than 9,000 genes or mouse lines that have been characterized, and all of this data is freely available on the web for the scientific community. And now again, it all started as a European project under Framework 5 with a project called Eumorphia. And this is why I see all of this benefit today, because I wouldn't be here talking about this without this initial funding under Framework Program 5. At that time, it was the first time that 16 centers across Europe came together to develop this idea, to develop these phenotyping platforms, to develop the protocols and to standardize the protocols with which to analyze these mice. We got together with clinicians and asked them what is really relevant in the clinic, and tried out what we can robustly measure also in the mice, and also did a first cross-laboratory comparison of these protocols. And then in next funding endeavors under Framework Program 6 and 7, all of this was carried out further. We enlarged as consortium and we phenotyped together the first 650 mutant mouse lines using these protocols and did more in-depth cross-laboratory comparisons if these protocols that we developed really produce reproducible results. That, so that we can really work together in this large-scale consortia and get something similar. And today, all of this work has already contributed to several achievements of understanding of the mammalian genome function, and there have been several systemic analyses published in multiple disease areas, including brain research. That is one specific example where we used one specific phenotype which is conserved in multiple species from Drosophila over mice to humans. It's called prepulse inhibition, and it's a phenotype that is relevant in several neurodevelopmental disorders. And here we could use the information we got from the mice and ask the question, where are these genes expressed in the mouse brain, and are they also expressed in the same way in the human brain? And we could team up with another European research effort, eBrains, where we got together with Katrin Amunds and Sebastian Bludau and could get their help to understand in more detail how are these genes actually affecting the human brain, what really translates from what we find in the mice. And we're doing now similar things for autism-related genes, anxiety-related genes, and genes that cause specific motor effects. And all of these things that the IMPC has produced over the last decades has really created value for the scientific community. It resulted in over 7,500 publications. This usage of the data and the information and makes that a really highly influential investment into research. And all of this came together under a European umbrella a couple of years ago, again. Under the European Brain Research Area, we could create the Predictive Model Systems Cluster, where we could team up with several IMIs and many other stakeholders to ask the question, what can we do to specifically increase the translational value of preclinical models in neuropsychiatry? And there is still a large overlap between IMPC members and European members, and in this joining forces, trying to improve the situation. And this all happened during the pandemic, so we had multiple online meetings and had several discussions about the translational gaps and the bottlenecks and the different needs and interests. And the bottom line was, to us, basic scientists, what is still missing are mechanistic insights. What you should continue to contribute is trying to unravel the disease etiologies, to better understand them, to provide more neurobiology-based clinical diagnosis, and also to work on improvement of experimental designs, clinically relevant experimental designs, focus on reproducibility, and also think about improving treatment regimens so that also in preclinical research, treatment regimens are being used that are actually matching those that are used in the clinic, because this is apparently not necessarily always the case. And my last point is that through this EBRA PREMOS cluster initiative, it became clear that the exchange with patient representatives and clinicians is actually key when we think about where do we go from here. At some point, all of this phenotyping will be finished. At some point, we will be done with this. So what would be the next relevant steps to contribute to an improvement of patient lives? And for us, the important questions are really, what is it that we need to model in detail? Which are the clinical features that are really disease relevant, and what would a patient consider an improvement, so that we can start thinking about our experimental designs and the whole translational process with the end in mind. And one last point is the German Center for Mental Health, where I lately became involved in, and this is my first experience where we're actually living this patient-public involvement. There are patient and relative representatives involved in our meetings and in the discussions on the projects. They are being asked to provide feedback on the different suggestions, and this is really a great experience which taught me a lot, and which I'm really looking forward to continue in different aspects. And with this, I would like to stop here and hand over to Péter.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to ask for this gadget. Okay, understood. What's next, and why I'm here today, and why patients are represented in a congress like that? Because I think it is self-evident that patients should be the roots of all research. But how patients are the roots of all research today all over Europe? How research is based on patients' needs today in this and that country? What are the differences? And why I am here? I'm Péter Kéri, president of GAMIAN-Europe, and board member, the first board member of European Psychiatric Association who has experience with lived mental health experience. When I was 43, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Never happened a mental health issue with me in my life. It was life a death sentence. Today I live without medication. Today I live like this in my life. It is rarely happening to anyone in the world. I am board member of European Brain Council as well, because GAMIAN-Europe thought, and EPA thought, that patient inclusion is crucial today, because without their knowledge, making decision is nearly impossible and will not be an answer for those questions that are leading there down in patients' minds. How do? Maybe deal with this one. Okay. And my answer for that, I will talk about a couple of sentences. What is being together with patients today, and what can a patient give for research? My idea is co-creation today. It means that whatever we try to put together, whatever we try to examine, should be a co-creation with those ones who are in suffer. For that, we must understand the suffer. In this picture, it is a co-creative effort creating a beautiful hair. You see the eyes of the hairdresser and the lady, they do something together with an effort, what they put together. We don't know what was there before. If that lady was awful in the beginning, or the hair was greasy, or I don't know. In this picture, what we see is a beautiful outcome. Something like this can happen in our lives as well, when we work together with mental health or brain health patients as well, together with them, without any judgment. What is the incoming patient? For example, he's a schizophrenic, or he's a homeless, or he's whatever. The outcome is important to create something beautiful together with those ones who are important for us and for the society, for a better well-being. What kind of patients we can have in the involvement? I try to put together not really whitish slides for you. Maybe these are interesting. Everybody would want to have patients in suits, beautifully dressed, because they are outstanding. We'd like to have them in congresses, conferences, too many times. But patients are not like that. Patients are suffering alone at homes with different diseases, and they are not visible. 80% of those patients are in need, and they will not stand like me here in front of you talking about brain health or mental health problems. Or we have patients who survived migration, for example. They will have plenty to do after they distress. However, they are in mental health and brain health problematic, I don't know, field, they will try to create a new family in a new country. They will not be your patient with you until the time you do not ask them to be your partner in research or in gathering information. They will not participate voluntarily. Or those soldiers who will love when they protect our nation, and after they come home, we think that they killed someone in the field day. I don't want to have a discussion with that person. The stigma is there with them. However, PTSD and many, many things could be very well deep down researched if we include everyone who was there once and who we have stigma today. Or we have celebrities as patients today who we say, oh, very good that they are there. They are talking about bipolar disorder, for example. Is she a really good patient representative for us today? One of them, but will not be there for us in the research. Many, many times I mention homelessness because they survive so many psychosocial aspects of life, but so rarely they are included in brain and mental health research, and we do not see their input as deeply as they should be included just because they are not as lovely as someone in this blue, I don't know, coat. Or there are one beauty queen who you can see from the 80s in Hungary, committed suicide, knew everything about the psychiatric system of Hungary that era. We do not have the chance to ask her if she's a good patient or not, could contribute, what was going on. We don't have a chance. So we must understand from that knowledge that we should not eliminate any patient from the system who has a voice because she won't be able to. And the same from those ones who we have stigma against. Many, many stigma can have a patient. For example, a prostitution. What she survived. Do we want to listen to her? Do we want to include her in the research? However, we know that psychosocially, emotionally, in many, many cases, we should rely on all the aspects what she could represent. And how can we use those patients' input in different fields? For example, European Union or global decision-making, certainly patients' needs, patients' voice should be there to shape the future of care, and the system, what is visible for patients, should be relied on the patient's reflection. And it is a responsibility of any researcher today, and many, many times we do not see that. Sometimes we might believe that we have a hypothesis, we are good in research, we are good in care, and we will give something good. But will it reflect on patients' needs? Many, many times I'm asked that, how in lab science patients could be there. Certainly, if I want to find biomarkers for schizophrenia or, I don't know, postpartum depression, I should know what area, what field of patients I represent, I work for, because only that time I will be transparent, impactful, and known well in that society I would like to point at. Why should I involve patients? Because it is a successful researchers, the professional writers, decision makers, carers. I can say I had the patients backing with me. Imagine, for example, major mental health issues. They will live with these diseases for decades. They cannot have a chance. Certainly they want to shape their future, and the research field and the care system. We must give them that right, as they have that right. It's not a, I don't know, a disease on our skin, what will be treated in 2 days, 30 years. Certainly, the real well-being can be achieved only if patients are there, and we understand that we made something what is good for the patient's well-being. We must see that those patients we involved will reflect that the well-being is there, and we created something for the real well-being of the patients. And certainly, patients are collaborators for everybody. We love to be collaborators of researchers together with you, understanding what you are going, where you are going to, about everything what is there. Certainly I understand what was mentioned today, that research is focusing on one thing and in depth. And I know that it is slower to include patients' views, but it is more efficient if we create slower but most efficient systems. Certainly, we must be aware that we will have an impact on every field what we represent. Maybe we can imagine that we put together, we have a research, an outstanding research in most models, for example. But at the end, we can have a huge impact of neuroscience, mental health, without the knowledge of the real society. And we don't know, for example, will my research stigmatize, for example, schizophrenic patients? Will my language stigmatize patients with this and that disorder? If I do not involve them from the beginning till the end, it will be eliminated. It will not be there. Where patients can be included in the systems. Certainly in research, and GAMIAN-Europe, my organization, does it. In this very moment, approximately 15 European funded precision psychiatry societal researches we have same time, where patients are included from the beginning till the end. Patients can be included in the improvement of the treatment, in the precise diagnosis, because in mental health and brain health, it is very fluid how patients are diagnosed. What is the root of diagnosing a bipolar person? Where is this diagnosis coming from? In the decision-making concerning anything in their lives, it can be political, certainly the institutional functioning, what I mentioned already, certainly the human rights about them, because it must be a part of any research and any project we'd like to put together. When we include patients, it can be media, it can be their families, it can be the definitions about them. It can be certainly the prevention. I'm very proud that GAMIAN-Europe started a huge discussion with European Union decision makers, and maybe you remember that the mental health recommendation of European Union came out, and the first is prevention, rooted on patients' voice. We can be very proud that we could make it together with them. And certainly everybody should face that we are pro-stigma stakeholders or against stigma stakeholders. Any step we make will create stigma or will eliminate the actual stigma. What should we think over? Is what I am doing is based on the sufferer's needs? Is it? Or do I have them with me? Do I understand the real life stories? Will I communicate without them or with them? Will my research affect their lives, and how? Do I have a negative impact with those brilliant things what I'm trying to put together? Will my work properly received by whom and how? That's why a beautiful slide. I hope you like it. I think it is very colorful. I think co-creation, collaboration without limits can prove it for us. Does not matter if it is European Psychiatric Association, if it is a mental health NGO, if it is an Alliance for Mental Health in European Parliament, it is an international brain organization, if it is the big pharma, there is an organization today, and it is GAMIAN-Europe, who can create bridges between these organizations based on the patient's voice. And it is actual, usable, useful, and we are there for creating a real playground for research today. So what I propose, to understand the patient, every patient voice, and we don't have bad patients. And I think we have time for discussions. And we agreed that first of all we will have questions.
I already see a question, and I saw her watching very attentively, so I was expecting this.
Thank you so much for this beautiful presentation. Thank you, Péter, for anticipating a bit the discussion perhaps we are going to have tomorrow during the role of patient organization in brain health research. I think that your presentation give me the opportunity also to underline an aspect that is relevant across the section that we had today. We are having today. That is, this is a science as well. I mean, it's not something that is going to happen by chance. In two ways, if we have to have a shared agenda or shared mission, whatever is going to be the priority that we are going to select out of the brain health research, this mission or this agenda, shared agenda, need to have patient engaged. And I would say more than this, need to have all the relevant stakeholders engaged. And this is a science. I mean, you need the competencies on board for this to happen. And coming back to the concept of advocacy, advocacy is not just to defend rights, because we have to defend the rights. It's to go to politicians and show them that they can have incentive and return of investment by supporting a given mission, a given agenda. And the best evidence is that talking about health and talking about brain health research is showing that we are meeting patient needs and we are measuring, the impact of patient engagement by, for example, including their patient-reported data. So what I wanted to say, what you have shared with us in a very nice manner is telling us that we need to invest in a new discipline and taking this seriously, because this is relevant for the European brain health agenda, for the global brain health agenda, for any kind of priority we are going to identify. And so I really like to see this because the question is what is important for my job every day, is that we are not working on silos, and we will have this discipline embedded together with the other, because otherwise will be very difficult to make it, in my opinion.
Thank you very much for this. And one thing I would like to add for those sentences, yes, patient advocacy is not only fighting for patients' human rights. Patient advocacy is understanding and acknowledging that patients with neuro and mental field, they have the same rights in society, and it is self-evident because it was never a question. We can fight for these when it is not there, but patient inclusion is another question and another topic. In what fields, what kind of patients we include? Do we distinguish in patients? Do we have favorite patients or not? Do we have selected patients, or do we reflect on others as well? And we had this discussion already in the building of European Parliament. It was outstanding that certainly it can be a science, but what science it would be? When we are talking about, for example, imagine mental health patients, what kind of patients we could include in research, the good ones, the bad ones, the worst ones, and certainly this science should be shaped upon acknowledging that all science, all patients matter, does not matter what kind of, does not matter what suffer, and if we consider psychosocial aspects, certainly we love those ones who says, oh, I lost my cat, I was depressed, my cat was so cute, today I'm. But if we are starting to talk about abuse, if we're starting to talk about deepness of mental and neuro and psychosocial things, sometimes we dislike the guy. However, that is the sufferer. And that should be acknowledged in the future. That does not matter. The mental illness, the neuro illness is here, like cancer is here. We don't blame. We accept, include, and try to collaborate.
As a host, I cannot take sides between like which panel is good and which panel is excellent, but I have to say that I'm very happy that I chose this panel for this time. I was fascinated by your presentation. I'm sure I'm going to show my colleagues the video recording for those who are not present, because your story showed that many years ago in FP5 there was a research collaboration which managed to lay the foundations of new research collaborations, exploring more and more fields of this very exciting field, but not only producing results, but resulting in more and more questions, as you as you showed. And this is basically how science works. To be able, yes, we are producing results, but we are discovering more and more unknown areas which are also worth researching. So that was very exciting for me. And in your presentation, Péter, it was great to see this kind of honest mirror that we are facing, because as a funding agency representative, we always have these requirements, and not only have these, but we are creating these requirements as well. We cannot shy away from the fact that we are creating these requirements for the researchers, that, okay, you have to engage stakeholders. Okay, but how? How should I do that? I mean, it was very important from your presentation that it can actually go wrong. So if you are not sensitive enough, if you are not if you do not take or accept the support of experts, it can actually go wrong. So impact can not only be positive, but it can be negative as well. And so it was fascinating. I do not want to answer the question on how EU research affects my daily work, because my daily work is EU research as in a funding agency, being the national contact point coordinator for Hungary and the program committee meeting and all these partnership issues. But these were something, both your presentation, which we will definitely show to our researchers and also to my colleagues, and thank you so much, it was great.
Thank you very much for this feedback. I don't know, do you want to reply directly? Or because I would like to share with you a bit of the backstory, how this all came about. So the start of Eumorphia was actually a result of the Human Genome Project, which had just been finished, and it was understood, now we know the sequence of the human genome, of the mouse genome, but we don't know the function. And it was already a political decision that we need to understand the function. And then it was basically the question was put to a known group of researchers who had delivered on the human genome and mouse genome project before, and said, how would you go about this? And there was space basically to develop this iterated approach, which really brought together stakeholders in the beginning, who basically said, well, we first need to define what we want to do, what is clinically relevant, and we need to start with pilots. And then it really grew. So this is how this became basically an ongoing endeavor, which started, I think, in 2003 with the first funding for Eumorphia. And then when we could build on this and delivered step by step, I think it was in 2011 that finally the NIH got into it, and it became a larger thing. So it was really a political decision to do this, and the allowance for the researchers to with the demand to involve all stakeholders already at that time. So we had many discussions also with industries, learned about standard operating procedures and what have you, what we didn't know at the time, to then have the funding steps to develop it.
If I may add something, because one thing is missing from my slides, good examples of cooperation, co-creation, and where patient engagement was very successful and where it is today very visible, where maybe you don't imagine. Pharma and research. What patients think about pharmaceutical research? Wow, no. GAMIAN-Europe created the field. Patients created the field. When we can shape the process, the whole progress of pharmaceutical substance research. Sometimes I receive critical thinking about how a patient organization can engage with pharmaceutical research, because patients want to know how it is going, what is the substance, why someone wanted to, I don't know, put this substance on the table. Today we can say there are, I cannot tell names, but there is substance, what was an answer for patients' needs, because patients told that we want a substance for this condition. Before never happened, because before, they figured out something for hair growth and it became a heart medication. Today, no. Today it is reflecting on patients' need. And in global steering committees of pharmaceutical research, patients sit and monitor soul, and not only a wallpaper, and not only someone ticking boxes that, yes, I was there, but really with ideas towards, and you know what, it comes back from the pharmaceutical research saying that, oh my God, we never believed that this cooperation is like that. Or, for example, being board member of European Psychiatric Association, it is not being a wallpaper that, you shape, for example, what kind of abstracts, for example, we receive. All these abstracts are reflecting on patients' need or not. We have decision-making body there. It's outstanding. Or when we are talking about professional writing, in the past, even in the last 2-3 years, we could see patients' names among the authors, last ones, number 12, 15, something. When you first receive a question from birth psychiatry that, would you like to write together with us an article? And I was just, wow, it is something new. We put together an article. The impact factor was the highest. And they were just like, it is impossible. And just because patients was there, and not only, like that, we received a very huge impact factor from that, that paper. Or what is, for example, very interesting, I think, the worldwide appearance of patients, because patient inclusion is very different country by country. We can teach, we must be proud in Europe of patient inclusion. I try to share our ideas, for example, with low and middle income countries, to understand the inclusion, the patient inclusion in each countries. And when we transparently talk about how patients are included in the system today in Europe, for example, South Africa comes back and says that, okay, come here and show us what we can improve. And I learned, for example, a lot from those countries, what kind of differences they have, what I can use, or we can at GAMIAN-Europe use here. And this horizontal knowledge sharing will work only if patients are connected, because they need this knowledge. Because sometimes professionals tend to work in, sorry, I hate the word using silos. They are separate islands too many times, and patients are there trying to understand each other. And where we need professionals more to support that, just to say that I like it. I like that you are there. Maybe you will be critical. Maybe you will say that I was harsh, but I will tell the truth. Yes.
I think it's on, yeah.
So coming back to the funding system, and I think that different from other responsible research innovation requirements, such as open access or gender equality, this cannot be an obligatory requirement that we should leave to the researcher to take care of. I think it needs to be a multi-stakeholder responsibility, a co-accountability, because this can be successful only if all the stakeholders will be responsible for this engagement. So this is where perhaps also the level of funding approach, we should ensure that we have resources, competencies on board to manage consortiums, like multi-stakeholder collaboration and patient engagement as key stakeholder of the multi-stakeholder collaboration. Because this is slightly different, but in terms of funding approach, it's very important. Because otherwise it's going to be a, tokeistic kind of approach that is not going to work.
She was looking at you, Popala, so I think, do you want to
I
comment?
I represent all the funding agencies in the world.
Yes.
Room. No, I'm just kidding. Absolutely. But I have an opinion on that. Is that you mentioned, Péter, that stakeholder engagement should not be taken as a tick box exercise. Sorry. And as a funding agency, we have a great responsibility on how researchers think about their research and how researchers conduct their research, because the requirements we set for funding will inevitably shape their way of doing research. And on this side, I can very much empathize with the European Commission, because if when the European Commission set stakeholder engagement and impact as an obligatory factor in the European proposals, also open science, also gender equality. So we always tell the researchers that these will make their research better. So they might seem as administrative exercises, but eventually this will train them to think more responsibly about their research and to have a more detailed view, factoring in many perspectives. So I'm very much for setting requirements on the side of the funders, but of course we cannot go into extremes.
No, absolutely, but they need a school. They need the training, they need the responsible research innovation training. I'm not saying that they should be responsible for this, but they need to know how to do it, because otherwise they will do it, on a spare time. So this is my point. So as more than advocacy school, perhaps we need to think about how to train us, because I'm including myself, in, responsible research innovation, integration into research. So this is...
Yeah. Am I also allowed to ask you a personal question? Absolutely. Thank you for sharing with us that you said you were diagnosed with schizophrenia, but today you are without any pharmacological treatment. I would be interested to know how you came off the treatment.
And that's why this is a good question, because in many places I try to speak about mental health diagnoses like a diverse, like a colorful bouquet of flower. So we can say that schizophrenia, and it is easy to tell or say. But if we consider a mental illness like a big, beautiful bouquet of flowers, and one person is like, I don't know, carnation here, the other one is, I don't know, this and that flower, we understand that it is something different. And if we consider that psychosocially, all mental health issues must be different, so certainly in diagnosis it is schizophrenia, then we understand that we are facing different, diverse persons. And in my case it was easy because we understood that not only the mind can create these illnesses, many other things, body, psychosocial can create. For me, it was breathing. It was breathing. A badly happened nasal surgery caused my brain having less oxygen normally daily basis than a normal person. When I found a solution, it was easier to reach the voiceless life. Certainly we tried out so many medications, but until that moment it was not self-evident that too much carbon dioxide is in my blood and too less carbon,
So how did you find this out? Who was it? Okay.
Smart things are
we discuss this later.
Smart things are easy to use, and an old X-ray, when you find an old X-ray from your photo box and you just check, oh my God, it is happening to me, and you have a good psychiatrist who is responsible.
Was a psychiatrist?
Yes, together. Okay. It is a great discussion together. We check that, is it possible? It is possible, but not usual. Okay, try out with more oxygen. More oxygen, no medication. it was the solution. Should I try more?
Okay, so it was your interaction with your psychiatrist.
Yes, certainly.
Okay. Thank you. So if we don't have any more questions right now, because it's, I think, the time to come together and everybody else moved in. Thank you very much, Péter, and thank you all the discussants. And
This was great. Thank you.